I've been a trucker for years. You see weird things on the road. Mostly sleep deprivation, highway paranoia, or idiots messing around at truck stops. But this was different. It was supposed to be an easy haul, a scheduled pickup from a remote warehouse, then straight across 2 states. My dispatcher sent the details. The rate was double my usual pay, no questions asked. The place was in the middle of nowhere. When I pulled in around midnight, something felt off. No workers, no other trucks, just a single shipping container on the dock, doors slightly open. I cut the engine and climbed out. Wind rattled the warehouse siding. No movement, no voices. I checked the paperwork again. The manifest listed 1 unit, high value, no inspection required. That was weird. Every load gets inspected. I stepped closer to the container. Inside, my flashlight caught something metal. Chains bolted to the walls. A sick feeling crawled up my spine. Then I saw the crate. It was shoved against the back of the container. Heavy-duty wood, padlocked shut. Then it moved. Not much, just a slight shift, like something inside was alive. A muffled thud followed, then a low, weak cough. My stomach twisted. That wasn't cargo. That was a person. I turned back toward my truck, ready to call anyone, when my rig shut off. Dead. No power. No lights. No engine. Then headlights flooded the lot. An SUV pulled in fast. 2 men got out. Suits. One of them spoke into a radio. The other? He was already looking at me. The taller guy approached. "You're the driver?" I nodded. "Yeah, but..." "Good." He cut me off. "You're early." "Early for what?" The shorter man circled my truck, checking something on a tablet. He glanced at me. "Manifest checkout?" The tall guy turned to me, expectant. I hesitated. They thought I was in on this. I could play along, or I could be a problem. I forced a nod. "Yeah, but the, crate? Not your concern," the shorter man said. He motioned to the container. "Get it loaded, now." My hands clenched. If I refused, I had no truck, no way out, and 2 guys who looked too comfortable giving orders. If I cooperated, I'd be trafficking a person. I made my choice. I moved to the controls like I was prepping for the lift. Then, with one motion, I yanked the emergency release on my trailer hitch. The air brakes screamed as my rig slammed back to life. The 2 men froze. I bolted for the cab. "Hey!" the tall guy shouted. I jumped into my seat and fired the ignition. It started instantly. That confirmed it. They had killed my truck remotely. They had control. But now I had mine back. The shorter man pulled something from his jacket. Gun. I threw it into gear just as he fired. A bullet shattered my side mirror. But I was already peeling out, tires screaming as I gunned it toward the highway. In my mirror, I saw them running for their SUV. I didn't wait to see if they followed. I floored it, 80, 90 miles an hour, tearing down the empty road. Then, my CB radio crackled. "Driver." My stomach turned. The voice was calm. "You made a mistake." It wasn't my dispatcher. It wasn't anyone I knew. I didn't respond. The voice continued. "You don't know what you just did." Then silence. I drove for 2 hours straight before I even checked my phone. Dispatch had sent a message. "Job canceled. Do not return. Payment voided." No explanation, no details, just a warning. I checked the news for days, nothing, no missing person reports, no FBI raids, no trace of that warehouse. A week later, I got a new job offer. Different company, same route, same warehouse. I blocked the number. I'm never going back. I never thought much about the dangers lurking in the dead of night. As a long-haul trucker, the open road was both my livelihood and my sanctuary. But an encounter on Route 22 changed that forever. It was a typical Tuesday night, the kind where the highway stretches endlessly under a canopy of stars. I had just delivered a load in Pennsylvania and was en route to Ohio. The hum of the engine and the rhythmic thump of tires on asphalt were my only companions. Around midnight, fatigue began to set in. I spotted a rest area ahead, a dimly lit oasis amidst the darkness. Deciding to pull over for a quick nap, I eased my rig into the parking lot, noting only a couple of other trucks parked haphazardly. I killed the engine, reclined my seat, and let the silence envelop me. Just as I was drifting off, a faint tapping echoed from the passenger side. My eyes snapped open, heart pounding. "Who's there?" I called out, straining to see through the murky gloom. No response. I grabbed my flashlight, stepped out, and circled the truck. Nothing seemed amiss. "Must be the wind," I muttered, though unease gnawed at me. Climbing back in, I locked the doors, double-checking out of newfound paranoia. Sleep eluded me. Every creak and rustle outside magnified in the stillness. Suddenly, a shadow flitted past my windshield. I sat bolt upright, gripping the steering wheel as if it were a lifeline. "Who's out there?" I shouted, my voice betraying a tremor. Silence. Then a soft chuckle, almost imperceptible. Cold sweat trickled down my back. Determined to confront whatever or whoever it was, I yanked the door open and jumped down, flashlight in hand. The beam sliced through the darkness, revealing nothing. Just the empty lot and the distant hum of the highway. Frustration mingled with fear. "This isn't funny!" I yelled, the sound swallowed by the vast night. Deciding I'd had enough, I climbed back into the cab, ready to leave. But as I reached for the ignition, a face appeared at the window, pale, eyes wide with a manic gleam. I recoiled, heart racing. The figure pressed a finger to their lips, signaling slunts. Before I could react, the stranger tried the door handle, finding it locked. They scowled, mouthing words I couldn't decipher. My mind raced. Who was this person? What did they want, and why target me? Gathering my wits, I fumbled for my phone to call 911, but in my panic, it slipped from my grasp, clattering to the floor. The stranger's eyes darted to the movement, and they began pounding on the window, the cab reverberating with each blow. Desperation took over. I slammed the truck into gear and floored the accelerator. The sudden jolt threw the assailant off balance, and I sped out of the rest area, adrenaline fueling my escape. Heart still hammering, I drove non-stop until dawn, only pulling over at a busy truck stop. There, amidst the morning bustle, the night's terror felt almost surreal. I reported the incident to the local authorities, who took my statement with practiced concern. Days later, I learned from fellow truckers that similar encounters had occurred along Route 22. A drifter with a penchant for terrorizing lone drivers, they said. Some claimed he was harmless, seeking only to scare. Others weren't so sure. That night changed me. The open road, once a symbol of freedom, now held shadows I couldn't ignore. I became more cautious, always choosing well-lit, populated stops and forging alliances with fellow drivers. The camaraderie became a shield against the unknown perils lurking in the vast expanse of America's highways. It was the dead of night, and I was hauling a load through the desolate stretches of Route 22. The highway was a ribbon of asphalt cutting through endless miles of wilderness, with only the occasional flicker of distant headlights to remind me I wasn't alone in the world. The hum of the engine and the rhythmic thump of tires on pavement had a lulling effect, but an uneasy feeling gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. I'd been on the road for hours without a break, the monotony only broken by the sporadic chirping of the CB radio. Fellow truckers shared tales to pass the time, some humorous, others downright chilling. One story in particular stood out. A trucker claimed to have seen a figure standing by the roadside, only for it to vanish upon closer inspection. I chuckled it off as fatigue-induced hallucinations, but the seed of doubt had been planted. As the miles rolled on, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The rear-view mirrors reflected only the dark void, but that did little to ease my growing paranoia. Deciding it was time for a break, I pulled into a rest area, a solitary outpost amidst the vast emptiness. The place was eerily quiet, save for the distant rustling of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. I stepped out of the cab, stretching my legs and taking in the crisp night air. The silence was almost oppressive, amplifying every creak and groan of the cooling engine. As I leaned against the truck, sipping on lukewarm coffee, a faint sound reached my ears. A soft, almost imperceptible whispering. I strained to listen, convincing myself it was just the wind playing tricks. But the whispers grew louder, more distinct, forming words I couldn't quite comprehend. A shiver ran down my spine as I scanned the area, finding nothing but shadows and silhouettes. Deciding I'd had enough of the unsettling atmosphere, I climbed back into the cab and locked the doors. The interior light flickered momentarily before stabilizing. A minor electrical glitch, I assured myself. I radioed a buddy, hoping for some conversation to distract from the creeping dread. "Hey, Mike, you out there?" I called into the mic. A moment of static, then his familiar voice crackled through. "Yeah, I'm here. What's up? Ever get the feeling you're not alone out here?" I attempted a light-hearted tone, but it came out strained. Mike chuckled. "All the time, buddy. It's just the road messing with your head. Get some rest." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Yeah, maybe you're right." After signing off, I reclined in the driver's seat, closing my eyes in an attempt to rest. Sleep was elusive, with every creak of the truck magnified in the stillness. Just as I was about to drift off, a loud thud jolted me upright. Heart pounding, I scanned the surroundings through the windshield. Nothing seemed out of place. Mustering courage, I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, the beam cutting through the darkness. Circling the truck, I found nothing amiss, no footprints, no signs of life. Just as I was about to chalk it up to my imagination, the flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. Cursing under my breath, I fumbled my way back to the cab, locking the doors once more. The sense of unease had morphed into full-blown fear. I decided to push on, preferring the familiarity of the road over the oppressive stillness of the rest area. As I merged back onto Route 22, the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. They seemed to emanate from the very walls of the cab, surrounding me in a cacophony of unintelligible murmurs. Panic set in, and I gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles white. The road ahead seemed to stretch into infinity, an endless tunnel with no escape. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the middle of the road, illuminated by the headlights. I slammed on the brakes, the truck skidding to a halt mere inches from the apparition. Heart racing, I peered through the windshield, but the figure was gone. Breathing heavily, I tried to rationalize the encounter. Fatigue, stress, anything but the supernatural. Deciding it was best to keep moving, I pressed on, the whispers gradually fading into the background noise of the engine. As dawn approached, the oppressive darkness gave way to the soft hues of morning, bringing with it a semblance of normalcy. I pulled into a truck stop, exhausted and shaken. Over a hearty breakfast, I recounted the night's events to a fellow trucker, hoping for some logical explanation. He listened intently before speaking. "You're not the first to experience strange things on Route 22. They say the isolation can play tricks on your mind, but who knows? Maybe there's more to it than that. I nodded, contemplating his words.